Hey guys, Fred Lonsdale here, and welcome to another one of my political videos. This is going to be the first video in what I think is going to be a three-part series. And as I'm sure you can guess by the title, we are going to be looking at states in the 2020 presidential election that are states that are going to lean towards Trump, states that are going to lean towards Biden, and states that are going to be pure toss-ups. So, I guess a little bit of background as to why I'm doing this. So my background, I feel like I'm pretty good at telling you, the viewer, which states are going to be lean versus which ones are going to be toss-ups, because I have worked on political campaigns. I worked on Bernie Sanders' 2016 presidential campaign, and I've also done a few different congressional elections. So I feel like I have a pretty good sense of what states are going to be in play and to what extent they will be. And the reason I'm doing this is because between now and Election Day, which is about seven weeks away, you're going to be hearing a lot of just different stuff on TV, on mainstream media, on social media, even small market sort of media, independent media, about just different stuff, Biden up by 2 points in Michigan, Trump up by 3 points in latest Florida poll, Pennsylvania pure toss up, things like that. And so I'm doing this video sort of so that you, the viewer, can be more informed, and you can hopefully be able to sort of cut through sort of the drama that the media, all the media, likes to create around elections. They do it for a reason. They're important. They're trying to get people. They're trying to get people sort of jazzed up to vote. But at the same time, they're also after viewership. They're also after clicks. Things like that. And look, like, nothing wrong with that as long as you are able to sort of be informed and be able to tell the difference, between sort of things that are true and things that are probably more just wishful thinking slash let's see how many people we can get to click on this article. Um, so, today, and I guess I'm sure you can tell by the title of this video, we are going to look at states that are going to lean towards Trump. So all the Trump viewers or sort of worried Democrats out there, this is going to be the video for you. So again, these are going to be states that I think are going to lean to Trump and inevitably are going to go for him. I think that some of them are going to be closer than others. So let's get into it, shall we? The first state that I think is going to, that I've seen maybe be floated as a toss-up, but I think is more of a lean state, in fact I know is more of a lean state, is Ohio. And the reason I say that is because the blue wave, if you will, in 2018 basically took a giant detour around the state of Ohio. Republicans won the governor's race there. I think they won every single executive office in the state, so treasurer, attorney general, secretary of state. They held all of their congressional seats. And I believe that Republicans have 3/4 of the congressional seats in the entire for the state of Ohio. So that's the fact that Democrats weren't able to flip a single one of them in a midterm election year that was historically good for Democrats is probably a little bit troubling to Joe Biden's chances there. I will say that Sherrod Brown was able to defend his Senate seat. Sherrod Brown, the Democrat, was able to defend his Senate seat. But I truly believe that is more down to sort of Sherrod Brown's own personal brand of politics. I think he was able to sort of transcend sort of party affiliation. So I really do think that Ohio is going to go to Trump. I think it's going to go by a fairly comfortable margin. Maybe not as large a margin as in 2016, but I don't think it's going to be in play that much. I'm more putting it on here for sort of as a lean for academic purposes. I've seen it sort of been thrown around as a possible lean, possible toss up. I'm just gonna try and put those rumors or hopes to bed. So I think it's gonna go to Trump. I think that the demographics there are pretty favorable to him. The fact that the Democrats didn't win any of the statewide seats, they couldn't flip any of the congressional districts in a very, very favorable election for them. I think that doesn't bode well for Joe Biden. I don't think that I think that Ohio is a state that leans conservative, and sometimes you have a candidate like Barack Obama who can generate massive turnout in cities like Columbus, Cleveland, Cincinnati. I don't think that Joe Biden is going to be able to do that. I do think that the margins are going to be closer because Joe Biden's going to be able to make inroads in the suburbs, but I don't think he's going to be able to do enough of that. I think that the Republican Party, Ohio, is still quite strong. I think that the blue collar workers in that state are going to break. Definitely going to break for Trump. I think that Biden is going to do better in the suburbs, but he's not going to win sort of by the overwhelming margins that he needs to. So I think that Trump is going to be able to pull it out in Ohio by a fairly comfortable margin. Next, we are going to go to another Midwestern state, Iowa. I think that Iowa is going to be closer, and I think than Ohio, and I think that Biden, there's more potential for him to do well, make it close, and even if things start going bad for Trump, possibly even pull an upset there. But that is what that would be, an upset. I think that Trump is going to win Iowa. It's got sort of the same favorable demographics for him that Ohio does, predominantly white state. You have pockets of sort of, minority groups, but they're sort of clustered in the big cities. So, I think that the demographics shape up well for him there. I do, the Iowa Democratic Party they were successful in flipping 2 of the congressional districts in 2018. I believe it was Congressional District 1 and 3. So, yeah, out of the 4 congressional districts in Iowa, Democrats occupy 3 of those seats. But a little bit more telling for the Democrats is that they lost the statewide gubernatorial election. So the race for governor, Kim Reynolds was reelected. And I think that that's a little bit more telling, sort of the statewide race, because congressional districts, it's all the people voting in that district versus the statewide races, which are all the people in the state. So, I think that's more of an indicator of where Iowa is in terms of, its politics. I think it's going to be a lot closer than it was in 2016, the 2016 presidential race. But I do think that Trump is going to be able to sort of pull it out. Again, I think that, it's got Iowa favorable sort of demographics, a lot of rural areas. The northwest corner of Iowa, or the northwest portion of that state, staunch Republicans. That's Trump country all the way. I think enough of the rural areas are going to break for him. Iowa does have some cities that will surely go Democrat. Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, obviously Iowa City is a pretty it's kind of a seat of liberal, sort of liberal stronghold there. But those cities they're cities. They're not massive cities. The suburbs there are probably not sort of as big as somewhere like Texas or even Georgia or Florida, where if the suburbs in those states break really hard for Biden, they could put those states in play. The suburbs of Des Moines are not really comparable to the suburbs of Houston, Texas. So I just don't think that Biden is going to get enough support in Iowa to win there. I think he's going to get enough to make it close. The one thing to watch out for is the effect that Trump's sort of trade wars have had on the rural voting populace. As far as I know, I would suspect that the rural areas are still going to break hard for Trump. But if there is backlash to his import-export wars with China and other sort of other trade partners of the United States, then yeah, if the backlash is from sort of the rural farming communities is large enough, Biden could pull the upset. But that's exactly what it would be. It would be an upset, and I don't think, as unbelievable as it is to say, I still think that the voters of Iowa in the rural areas are going to break for Trump. Biden will win the cities, and I think that the suburbs, much like Ohio, it'll be closer than it was in 2016. I think that they might even go slightly for Biden, but I think that Trump is going to keep the margins there close enough that he's going to dominate the rural areas, and keep it close enough in the suburbs too, and maybe the secondary cities, to pull it out in Iowa. Next, we are going to go over to Texas. I've heard people say, this is the year that Texas is going to be in play for the Democrats. I think that's a little bit wishful thinking. The demographics of Texas are certainly changing, but I don't think this is the election year that Democrats are able to pull it off. I think that a lot of people kind of got hopeful based on Beto O'Rourke's sort of his showing in the 2018 Senate race. Um, I think amongst Republicans, it's fair to say that Trump is a lot more popular than Ted Cruz, and perhaps more importantly, Trump is going to be able to turn out his base. There is no question that Trump's base is going to turn out, and it's going to turn out pretty substantially. So I don't think that is going to be. I don't think that Biden's going to be able to sort of overcome that. I think that is going to be able. I think that's going to be, sort of the turnout of the base in Texas. And remember, this is like 10 years ago, this was considered the Republicans' version of California. Okay, this is like, Texas was their California. So I think that him being able to turn out his base in numbers that in the numbers that he will be able to, is going to sort of nullify any advantage that Biden gets by winning big in the cities and winning the suburbs. I think that Texas is going to be closer than it has in past elections. This might be one of the closest races in the Texas has seen in a very, very long time. But I think that Trump's ability to turn out his base is going to go a long way in helping him win the state of Texas. So I'm gonna give Texas. Texas is certainly a lean Trump. I'll believe that it's gone Democrat when I see it, shaded in blue on the New York Times, election night coverage. Georgia's kind of the same deal as Texas. I see it, this, people have been talking, oh, maybe this is the year that Georgia flips to the Democratic column. Again, demographics are changing, but I don't think that this is the year that Georgia goes Democrat. I also think that there's a little bit of false hope on the Democrat side based on the Stacey Abrams gubernatorial race there. Stacey Abrams lost a very tight race to the Republican Brian Kemp for governor. I don't think that Biden is going to be able to generate the same level of enthusiasm and sort of voter turnout that Abrams was, mostly because he's running for president versus governor, and it's, you gotta campaign hard in your swing states versus versus states that haven't voted Democrat in quite some time and are probably going to lean towards Donald Trump. And I also think that Biden is just not going to be able to sort of energize and galvanize those minority communities the same way that Abrams was. I do think that Biden's going to have a fairly strong showing in Georgia. It's certainly going to be better than Hillary Clinton's was, I think. But I definitely think, we know the rural areas of Georgia are going to break hard for Trump. I think that the suburbs, Biden might be able to win some of the suburban Atlanta communities, but I don't think he's going to do so with a really overwhelming margin. He's probably gonna perform better in the cities, than Trump, obviously, but to what extent, I don't think it's gonna be enough to push Georgia to the Democrats, because that's kind of the MO. Democrats do better in the urban areas every single election, but when was the last time a Democrat won the state of Georgia in a presidential election? So I think it's going to be sort of, that sort of story again. Trump winning, blowing Biden out in the rural areas, Biden blowing out Trump in the urban areas, and the suburbs maybe slightly going for Biden, but not enough to, basically make up for the fact that the rural areas broke super hard for Trump. Let's see. And then lastly on the list, Florida. Florida is like the Democrats' white whale. Every year I feel like Democrats sit there and say, okay, this is our year. We're going to get Florida. We're going to get Florida. And every time it just ends in tears and just depression and everything. There was a consultant in an article that I read, a Democratic consultant from Florida, who said if the Republic is reliant on Florida, God help us. So, if we're relying on Florida to save the Republic, then God help us. And I think that pretty much sums up a lot of sort of, at least my personal feelings on Florida and the Democrats' chances there. I think that they're obviously, it would assume on paper you look at it and say, okay, well, the demographics there are pretty favorable to to Biden and the Democrats. Well, Democrats in 2018, they lost the gubernatorial race, they lost the Senate race. These are all statewide elections. Yes, Democrats did pick up some congressional seats in South Florida, but again, I think that sort of statewide races like governor and Senate are more telling about where the state is and sort of the chances that it's going to vote blue in 2020. I still think, you get out of sort of the southeast coast of Florida and it's pretty red. I mean, Central Florida, the Panhandle, even the west coast of Florida. I wouldn't say the west coast of Florida is super red, but it's certainly purple. So, I think that a lot of sort of maybe wishful thinking, happens when it comes to Florida, at least from Democrats. So, but that doesn't change the fact that that you have entire swaths of that state that are, deeply red, if not crimson. And and again, I said it before, Trump is going to have no issue turning out his base voters. So I think when you put that into play, Florida, even if Biden is up 2 points come election day, that's still within the margin of error on any poll. And I just don't see Biden being able to win Florida. You get a candidate like Barack Obama, he was able to do it, but that's really because Barack Obama, he just had such an appeal across so many different demographics. And yeah, he was able to sort of create the Obama base, if you will. I don't think that Biden is going to be able to do that, at least not to the extent that Obama was. Obama was going up against John McCain and Mitt Romney. Both fine candidates, but nowhere near the ability to sort of create the cult of personality that Donald Trump has. I mean, you know for a fact that every Republican in the panhandle of Florida is going out to vote. Every Republican in Central Florida is going out to vote. Every Republican on the west coast of Florida is going out to vote. And they are thrilled to death about it. I just don't even... Even if Biden gets a blowout in Miami-Dade and Broward County on the East Coast, so basically greater Miami, which I don't think he's going to get. I mean, you still have to factor in, yes, he's probably going to win Hispanic votes, the Hispanic vote, but I think the Cuban vote is going to go to Trump, so that's going to sort of nullify some of those effects. And yeah, I think he's going to win. Biden's going to win Southeast Florida, but not the margins, not the blowout margins that he needs to. And I do think that Trump is going to win by the blowout margins that he needs to in the Panhandle, in Central Florida, in Northern Florida. Maybe, and if he just keeps it close on the west coast of Florida, he's probably going to win that state. Again, I think it'll be close. But I don't think that Trump is losing Florida. But that might be depressing to some Democrats. But again, Florida is like the Democratic Party's white whale. Every year, I feel like every year we think, whether it be presidential, midterm, every year it's our year, and it just never is. So I can't, until I see Florida check blue on the New York Times' election night coverage, I think is going to Trump. So that concludes our states that are going to lean towards Trump. Next time, I'm going to touch on the 5 states that I think are going to lead towards Biden. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and hopefully I will see you next time for our states leaning towards Biden. Thank you.